Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another, another thing about Merchant's Cove. And what we're doing today is I'm giving a quick overview of the final character that you can play from the latest Merchant's Cove expansion. And that is the shopkeeper, the Johann Spock, whatever his last name is, which is basically the Johnny Pack character. And I wanted to give a brief overview of how this one works, and I'll give my thoughts at the end as well. Now, what you're seeing here, not only is it prototype, but this is also literally a print and play. So if they look like they're oddly sized, that's because I can't cut. And you'll see I printed on a kind of a gray cardstock because that's what I had, so the color is a little bit different. And as I found out, my printer ran out of red. But I had no idea that I ran out of red, so you'll see some of them are colored over the pink highlighter to make them look kind of red. Anyhow, none of that should change the basic overview of how this game works, and again, it is based on perhaps an earlier rule set than is what the final will be, but this should give you a good idea. So here's what we're looking at. You're going to make your little play area out of these different cards. And over here, I have my worker placement spots, and just like all other games, you're going to actually start on the use staff spot, and I'll just put that token there, though this is a use staff or build, and I'll explain that in just a minute. You start with 2 spaces to place staff right there. You only have 2 of those, and 1 kills corruption, and 1 does a move and meld, which I'll talk about what the moving and melding is in a little bit. Over here we have our build tiles. These are ones that you can build throughout the game. And this is your deck that you'll be drawing from, though it should be flipped over this way. It just looked nicer like that. One thing I will say is when you are shuffling this up, it's very important that you take half of it and you rotate it, because the orientation of the cards matters in this particular character. So I'll just take some there and do another turn and whatever. And then I'll go ahead and turn that over. And you start the game with 1 at each dock. And these docks represent the docks in the game. So this here would be the big good dock, this is the small goods dock, and this is the black market. And so you start out, you take one, and you flip it out for each one, and you don't change the orientation as you place them out, like so. Now, the next thing to note is that there are actually 6 places you can place these cards out. You can also place them here or over here, and I'll cover that in just a minute. And the last thing is, it's cyclical. So as you see, we're going to be placing cards kind of down the line. If you place one here and you have another one, you go over to here, it pops you back out over here. And that'll make sense, hopefully, in just a bit. So let's just talk about the different things that you can do. We'll start with the use staff or build. You know how using staff works. You'll do whatever it says on the thing. However, you could also choose to build instead, in which case you would take one of these cards and you would add it to your tab below. So if I were to take one of these, suddenly I have 2 more worker placement spots. If I did it again, I'd have another, and I would have a total of 8. Same thing with these cards here. You can have up to a total of 6 staff spaces, and you place those out as well. I'll just put those to the side. Then you have your higher staff. We all know how that works. Then we have the core of the game down here. So I will start just kind of right here, which is draw 3 and meld. So I would draw 3 cards, and I don't get to change the orientation. And then what the meld means is I take one and I place it down on one of these spots wherever I want. So let's say I place it here. I place it down, and then it says rotate cards. So I would rotate that right on around. And then I can either choose to go left and place cards out. So if I were to do that, I could take one of them and place it right here, or I could place this one right here, or I could go this way. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place a super backer there, a blue super backer, and then I have this ding and dent right here. And the ding and dent is I get to choose what color it's going to be, but it's worth less because it is dinged and dented. And so I'll take this one here, and I will just place that right there. So you notice I am melding, adding on to what is there as I go. And however many cards I had in my hand, that's how many I would lay out. Now, when the dock closes, then what you'll do is you'll take this here and you'll place it on there. So when the dot closed. So here we go. I'll just do that, draw 2 and meld. So then I would draw 2 more and I would do the same thing again. You'll notice these here, these are gray, so they can be sold to rogues. So let's say I wanted to start right here. I would do that, and then I could either go this way or that way. And I will say I will go that way, like so. And you get the idea. Now, let's talk about how you're going to be able to sell things. So at the end of the round, eventually all of these will be covered, and the ships will come in, and you're going to get your chance to sell. Now, before I talk about that, I do want to talk about this card here. There's the late pledge. So if I were to have a late pledge card out, I could take this and perhaps play it here, and then I would still be able to add on to it even after it's been closed. But let's talk about how the sales works. So I'm going to look at my dock here, and then so I have set up as the big dock these things right here. I have one large blue, which I would look at the board, and let's say there's 3 blue meeples there, I would sell it for 24. However, I also have a super backer, and the super backer means I get to add 1 more. So if it was 3 on the dock, I would actually get to sell this times 4. Then I have my middle dock, where I have a small blue, and then either a small red or a small green, and a large blue or a large yellow, which would be foolish to have there because it would be completely useless to me. And then at the corruption dock, I have a large yellow, a small corruption, and then my late pledge. Then over here, there's this thing called hype. And hype is where you're going to want to try to get all of your different faction halls right there. And this would allow me to score my faction halls just like you normally would. Now, there are some other special cards in here that also help with that. So this one here is particularly special because it would score green twice, and then I would subtract whatever the amount of rogues in the rogue hall are. You'll notice it's a shield, which means it's a faction hall score, not a draw corruption card. And now we'll just talk about some of the other cards there. There's the royalties card, which is, if it's this side up, you add 2 points at the end of your sale. So if I sold 3 things for 8, instead of getting 24, I would get 26. Or this way, where you just get 4 points. Then I'll just show you briefly what some of these other things that you can do are. So here we have the draw 2 and meld, or move and meld 1 to 3 cards. Again, that's just moving things around. But you also have things like this, which is hire the rightmost staff. You'll notice you're hiring that for just 1 hour and no corruption, or use 2 of your staff for 1 hour. Then we have these other staff positions you can get out there, which are move and meld any card. Now this is important because usually when you're moving cards, you're only able to pull the top card off the stack. So I could take this one and put it somewhere else. But if I'm taking any card, so let's just say I'll set up like this, with this move any card, I could see this here and say, well, this is a useless card for me because this is where it is. So I could pull that out of there, slide that up, and I could move it and place it over here where it would be useful. Or let's say this was still there, like so. Maybe I have the rotate any top card. I could take that, turn it, and now it's useful. Then this next one is move the top 2 cards together. So I would take literally both cards off the stack and then move them somewhere else. And then swap any 2 top cards. And that's pretty much how this is going to work. So what do I like about this character? And I think the thing that I like the most about it is, I think, at least for my money in my wee little brain, that this is the most brain-burny of all of the different characters that you can play in Merchant's Cove. And with that, I will say that I feel like several of the new characters from the new expansion are a little more brain-burny than some of the older ones. But this one in particular, I had the most challenging time with trying to figure out what to do and what the best way to manage things is. And I think that is a good thing. Along with that, just kind of the whole completely different nature of it, I like. The idea that it's just a little stack of cards that you have that you're putting out. I like the way that you're able to kind of build up some of the actions in ways that you don't have with the other characters. You're able to have even more spaces for your worker to go to do different things, and they operate differently. You're able to have up to 6 total staff spaces instead of just the 4, though you start with less. I really like that. It lets you kind of lean into different play styles. And along with that, the other thing that I particularly like is I like the
kind of place and meld, the way that you're always trying to figure out, okay, when am I going to put something down? When do I want to kind of maybe have a less optimal move now to have a more optimal move later? That particularly comes into to play when you look at the spot that lets you kind of flip cards over. I think that's very, very clever. And so all of that I like. I do like this particular character quite a bit. What are my quibbles with the character? First one is, it is completely different. It does have kind of a weird sprawling feel to it, to where you don't actually know how much space you need on the table. You're kind of going to be spreading out. You have this kind of different vibe that you do have to decide how to build out your entire character board. What abilities do you want to be able to do, which you don't have with the other characters, which I think leads to a little more of that brain burn, but it leads to more brain burn. And so I do think that there's a good chance the first few times that you play this particular character, you're going to wind up being like, I don't know what I'm doing, and just going to do a whole lot of nothing, because I think there are ways you can really shoot yourself in the foot if you kind of build yourself out incorrectly. It's very hard to, not very hard, that's not fair. There's plenty of ways you can use staff and stuff to recover, but it's harder, I feel, to recover from mistakes that you've made with the Game Maker than it is to recover from mistakes that you've made with the other characters. And then the last thing I'll throw out there is just thematically, maybe it's not your jam. I actually find it kind of cute and funny, the whole backers and the hype and the super backer, because I'm so deep into this game and in this world. But if you're not deep into that, you just might be like, what is going on? I don't understand. Why are we doing a Kickstarter kind of knockoff here? Maybe that's not your jam. But there you have it, folks. That is the Game Maker. I dig it. I mean, I dig all the characters. Literally every single one. I don't know, there's 10 of them, 12 of them, 1,000 of them. I don't know. I played them all, and I like all of them, and I like all of them from different ways. But for me, this one falls into my top 4, maybe even my top 5 of all of the characters across all of Merchant's Cove. And I like different ones for different reasons. But for me, that brain burn that you got here really has me intrigued. And so there you have it, folks. That is the Game Maker. The Pledge Manager has just gone live, or is just going live right now. So you have your chance to get back in and do a late back if you'd like. And as always, I feel like I should, for this particular game, kind of throw it out there. I am very good friends with Johnny Pack, the designer of this particular expansion character. I am buddies with Drake Villarreal and Carl Van Ostrand, who are the main designers on the rest of this expansion. So do keep that in mind as you think about this, and you think about my objectivity and things like that. But as you know, this is a game that I love. This is a game that was my game of the year in 2021. So anyhow, there you have it, folks. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.